Hi, welcome to episode 222 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy K on Ravelry, Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where you'll find this episode and every episode show notes. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns. And we have a Ravelry group called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hello, how are you? It is Tuesday, March 19th. I am a couple days late in recording because I was out of town this weekend, which you may remember if you saw my last podcast. So let's talk about it. This past weekend, I went to the Arkansas Pen Show, which is mostly code for the Arkansas Fountain Pen Show, although there are roller balls and ballpoints and other kinds of pens there, but my interest is primarily in fountain pens. And as you know, if you have been watching for a little while, I have gotten interested in this in the last couple of years and have been attending shows. As my friend who is into fountain pens and knitting says to me, just replace knitting show, yarn convention, those kinds of constructs with fountain pens, and you have what's going on there. So the shows are generally not as big as like a Stitches West or a Vogue Knitting Live. They're probably more the size of like Knitting Guild shows, like my own Knitting Guild puts on. They run usually over a weekend. Sometimes there are trader days, which is people who, small makers who want to come and trade amongst themselves, and then there are days that were open to the public. There is a big vendor room filled with everyone from big stores to independent makers of fountain pens to guys who trade mostly in vintage pens. And then all the accoutrements that go with, you know, we've got project bags and stitch markers. They've got paper and inks and cases to hold your pens in. And so it is very analogous. And so that was kind of fun. What I did is we went down to Little Rock on Thursday, and then the pen show was Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and I worked in my friend Anna's booth. She is the Well-Appointed Desk, which is also a blog that I write for fountain pen related and notebook ink related items, and I worked in her booth this weekend helping her sell merchandise and greeting people. And then I also worked a little bit at Van Ness Pen Shop, which can be found at vanness1938.com. They are a pen shop headquartered in, well, I shouldn't say headquartered, they are a pen shop in Little Rock, Arkansas, and so they had a booth at the pen show, and then they also hosted some evening events in their store, and I sort of worked the evening events a little bit. I was there on hand to help out. I have actually worked at Van Ness's booth at other pen shows, so I am somewhat familiar with their stock, and so I sort of helped out there a little bit too. All of which is to say, it was a lovely weekend, although I came home tired and in need of a weekend. We drove home yesterday. I got home about 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I did some work yesterday. I got up early and went back to work this morning, and now it is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I had a brief break and thought while I had some good light, I should record a podcast. So that is sort of where I'm at. I brought some fountain pen things to show you, some of my favorites from the show. I have tea, and then I have knitting, and some aspirational talk about spinning. And we also have a knit-along that is going to start tomorrow. So let's get into it. I could use some tea. I'm realizing that my throat is a little bit dry, so I'm going to start with that, and then I'll go back to a few of the other things that sometimes I cover before the tea. The tea that I'm drinking today is from Adagio, where you can make all kinds of fan-inspired blends. This is called Inspiration. This is part of the Critical Role fandom teas. This is called a blend for bards and includes passion fruit, vanilla oolong, and ginger. I have drunk this before. My husband got me the sampler about a year ago, and I am still working my way through it. And I am mixing my tea stores because I am drinking in a Tea Source mug today that was a gift from a podcast watcher that I met up with. And it says, don't even think about putting coffee in this mug. And my husband constantly threatens to put coffee in there. Not that he really drinks coffee, but he constantly threatens to do it. But I am drinking tea. And that is a delicious one. I really like that one. I may be sipping this more frequently because, like I said, I just realized my throat is a little dry, and probably from talking all these days, my voice is a little rough, and I didn't really notice it because I haven't talked to anyone yet today, or at least not via anything other than email. So let's go back to the pen show for just a minute. I, much like people sell and trade their stash, I sell and trade my stash of pens and inks sometimes. I had a pen that I had purchased that there was nothing wrong with it. It was a lovely pen. It was a Sailor 1911, and there was nothing wrong with it, but I didn't find myself reaching for it very often. So I decided to put it up on the chopping block. And I had actually had it for sale for several months in a couple pen forums, think Ravelry for pens. And so somebody at the show came upon it and said, oh my goodness, I have been looking for one of these, and purchased it. So I had some funds to maybe get myself a little something new. So the pen that I bought was from Newton Pens. And Sean Newton is a hand maker of fountain pens. And he, for the most part, buys blanks. So mostly what he deals in are acrylic or resin blanks, like this beautiful one here. This is kind of an opalescent, pearlescent white with some brown streaks in it. When I saw it, I thought it looked like, let me put it up. Let me put it up with the, just so you can see it a little bit better. I thought it looked like toasted marshmallows or s'mores. And this is his logo. It is newtonpens.com, and his wife is lovely, and she makes the pen sleeves. When you purchase a pen, you get a pen sleeve, or you can buy them. I don't know how much they are because, like I said, I purchased a pen. And so this is his Townsend model. What he does is he buys the blanks, which are basically blocks of resin that have been poured in these great looking layers, and then he hand carves them on a lathe and gets all the pieces ready so that he can produce fountain pens. So I bought this pen. I ended up getting a fine nib, and he actually, it's hard to see, I don't know if the camera will focus on it, but his logo is actually on his nibs too. I don't think I can, oh, maybe that's just blurry. Okay, so I bought a beautiful new fountain pen, and then I went back to Van Ness Pen Shop and I found a toffee brown colored ink to go with it so it matches the brown in the pen. So that was my purchase. This is my first Sean Newton pen, and I really like the acrylic pens. They are lightweight and nice to hold, and they come in all kinds of pretty colors. It was actually torn because he had some beautiful purples and turquoises, but the white one was the one that came home with me. And then I picked up a notebook. This is a beautiful embossed notebook. It actually is textured. You can see that there is texture in it. This has Clairefontaine paper, which is lovely French paper for fountain pens. And I don't even know what this journal is called. This will be for review. I do know it is made in Morocco, and it is 144 pages, 72 sheets. The sheets are lined and are ivory colored. You probably can't see any of that. And yeah. So that is what I bought at the pen show this weekend. So I will be using these this week. Actually, the other thing that I bought that I didn't bring is I bought a little keyboard desk pad that I'm going to use and review, and it is basically, it looks like one of those ergonomic, the long skinny ergonomic pads that you put in front of your keyboard to rest your wrists on, but this is actually note paper, so I can take notes on it when I'm on calls or just need to jot something down, and then I can use that to sort of transfer that to my to-do list. So that is my what I brought home for the weekend. I brought home a few other things. I will be doing a write-up of the pen show. If you are interested, it will be over at The Well Appointed Desk, which is wellappointeddesk.com, and that review should be up in the next couple days. If you are interested in desk supplies, fountain pens, notebooks, paper, ink, pen cases, and all kinds of desk accessories, that is a great website. It is run by my good knitter friend and fountain pen friend Anna. She lives here in Kansas City. She was whose booth I worked in, and I usually write posts over there once a week. I am Tuesdays. So if you are interested in the other things I do outside this podcast, this is one of them. So let's get back to the content that you guys are here for. I usually try not to spend a lot of time on fountain pens because I know that it is not what everyone is into, but if you are into it, that's a little information on the other kinds of things that I do. So before I get into what I have knit for the week, let's talk about the knit along. So I finally have the details put together. I do not have the thread started yet, although by the time you see this podcast, I should. I am doing a spring make-along with Northern Knits podcast. If you haven't watched them, they are Jocelyn and Diana. They say that they are sisters in fiber. I don't think they're actually sisters. I think they're good friends, and they might possibly be sisters-in-law. I haven't figured that part out yet, but they are in Canada, and they have a lovely podcast, and they were interested in doing a spring make-along and wondered if I would be interested in doing something with them. So, like I said last week, we are starting on the spring equinox, which is tomorrow, March 20th, and we will run through the summer solstice, which is June 21st. So you have quite a bit of time to decide how you want to participate. The theme is spring make-along, so we are concentrating on garments that you would wear in the spring. So relevant crafts are crocheting, knitting, and sewing. We're not doing spinning because although you could spin fiber and then turn it into a garment, spinning itself will not create a spring garment. So for this one, spinning will not be counting. Although if you do spin something and then knit something or crochet something or weave something out of it, I guess you could weave fabric and sew a garment. It's a garment along. So if you produce a garment, then whatever craft you use to produce the garment will be applicable. Garments we are defining as adult size garments. We're not going to do baby garments this time because we decided that it would just keep a level playing field for those who are participating. Garments include anything from tank tops to shells to summer sweaters to skirts or dresses to shawls. If it is something you wear on your body and would be applicable for spring, go for it. I know that I think it was Jocelyn who has a preference for cotton and linen blends. She loves knitting with cotton, but as she said to me, I know not everyone likes that. So she may be doing an additional prize draw in her group for those that are making in cotton, but you can use anything. So if it is a lightweight wool sweater or a cotton linen blend, or basically if you have cotton and linen in your stash and you were thinking about crafting something for spring or early summer, now would be the time to do it. I think I'm going to finish up my boxy pullover since that is a fingering weight sweater. And then I actually have another sweater that I started last summer called the Pismo Beach Pullover. And if I have time, I think I'm going to have to pull out what I did before because I made some mistakes. But that is a lacy top that is meant to be worn over a shell. So I think that will qualify. So those are the projects that I'm going to be working on, which reminds me, whips are okay as long as they are less than 50% done. So spring garments, adult size, cotton and linen if you've got it, otherwise whatever you would like, and any relevant craft that will produce a type of garment to enhance your spring wardrobe. I will be starting a thread in my group today, and as soon as Northern Knits has put their thread up, I will go ahead and post a link to that in my thread. You are welcome to participate in both groups. We talked about potentially doing a prize draw from all the participants across both groups. I am donating my usual fiber donation. I will donate 2 prizes. The deal is, and I will pull them out shortly, I didn't for today, I will either donate 2 bags of fiber, a single bag to each person. If you are a spinner, you are welcome to spin it up on your own so you can have the fiber. If you would prefer that I spin it up for you, I will spin the fiber up for you. It might take me a week or 2 after the prize draw if I have multiples to spin, and then I will send it out to you. Or if you would prefer to pick a already completed skein of hand spun from my shop, you can do that. So there will be 2 hand spun spinning-ish prizes from me, and we can work out the details at the end of the knit along. Prizes will be drawn from all the participants who complete a garment using a random number generator. I know that Jocelyn and Diana plan to do a couple prize packages as well, probably yarn and project bags, and we haven't completely worked out how we're going to do the prize draws yet. I mean, they will all be random number generator, but I don't know if we're going to draw from both groups or each from our own group. But the point is to just get to know another podcast to use up some stash and to create those spring garments. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to ask here or in the thread, which I will be starting today. And it is a nice long craft along. Also, if you finish multiple things, obviously, well, we're not really doing socks, so never mind. I was going to say something that's a pair counts as a pair. But for instance, if you sew a skirt and knit a sweater, that is 2 entries. And you are welcome to enter as many times as garments you complete. So I think that covers that, and we are 15 minutes in and I haven't even started on the knits, so let's go. I finished a few instant gratification knits last week that I wanted to show you. The first is, and I showed you this last week, this is the January hat by Courtney Kelly. It is a free pattern as part of the Hat Club for Kelburn Woolens this year. It is to promote their new worsted weight yarn, which is Germantown. I did not knit in Germantown, although I do have a skein floating around here somewhere. This is a Patton's classic worsted in blue denim, and I knit this for the Hats Not Hate program, which is a program that Lion Brand has partnered up with Stomp Out Bullying for Worldwide Anti-Bullying Day, and they are collecting blue hats to pass out at the schools that they partner with. So basically I knit this. It is called January Hat by Courtney Kelly. Gosh, my pom-pom's a little floppy. I knit it in Peyton's classic wool, which is about 200 yards of skein, and I used up almost all the skein by the time I finished the pom-pom. I washed it and blocked it, and my only decision now is Worldwide Anti-Bullying Day, I believe, is sometime in the early fall, September or October, and so my only decision now is whether I'm going to mail this off now or if I'm going to, I have another skein of this, so I might try and do one more hat before I mail this off, and then I can just mail them both off together. If you Google Hat Not Hate, I will also put a link to it in my show notes, but Lion Brand has a page dedicated to it and a name and address where you can send the hats that you create. So this one was a quickie. It took me about a week and a half and maybe 2 weeks, and most of that was because I had it at my computer for working on during conference calls. It's kind of a fun cable and bauble pattern. So, and I haven't decided, but they are producing, Kelburn Woolens is releasing a new free hat each month. There is a February hat, and actually the March hat just got posted today, and so I might knit one of those in the skein of blue that I have left, and I'm toying with the idea of keeping up with them sort of by knitting their hats all year and donating them, because they are lovely, lovely patterns. So that is one of the things that I finished this week. The second thing that I finished this week that is also an instant gratification knit is I knit a dishcloth. And I talked about the fact that I have a big stash of cotton, dishcloth cotton, and a variety of interesting dishcloth patterns I would like to knit, and again they make good next to the computer for during conference calls and downtimes. And this one is called the Plaid Dishcloth, and I cannot remember who it is by because I am a bad podcaster, but it will be in my notes. It was knit in 2 colors of sugar and cream. I do not know what the multicolor is. I know that this one is a yellow, and it is basically, if you can see closely, it is slipped stitches that create some of the plaid pattern along with garter ridges. And I knit it a little bigger than it suggested because I had lots of extra, and I don't know whether I'll use this one or put it in the gift basket or put it in the donate basket, but I used up, I almost finished off these 2 balls of dishcloth cotton that I had in the stash, so I'm pleased with that. Dishcloths are great instant gratification projects if you want to have something on and off the needles quickly. So that is that one. In terms of larger projects, I actually finished the brioche shawl that I was working on. It is not blocked, so it looks super tiny. In practice, I found that last time I got almost twice the size when I blocked out my brioche. So I expect this one to grow considerably. This is a repeat of the one that I knit before. This is wrapped in brioche, and it is a pattern by Roxanne Yoon of Zen Yarn Garden, and I used approximately 100 grams. The pattern itself calls for between 100 and 120 grams. I used about 100 grams of 2 blanks. One in this is the side that is the luminous, and this is the side that is the woodlands colorway. And so one is purples and browns, and one is greens into black. It came out a little differently than the last one. It's kind of reversed. Last time the black and dark were up at the top and the bright green was down at the bottom. So it came out a little bit differently than the other one because of where I was in the blank. And at this point, I have used up probably about 75% of the sock blanks that I had. They were oversized blanks, 150 grams, 750 yards. This shawl is about 450, 475 yards. And like I said, I expect it to double in size. This is for my sister's birthday. I do need to weave in the ends and block. That is kind of the plan for today. My favorite part of this shawl, if you ask me, is up at the top where it's got this bright emeraldy green and also where it's got this purple, but I just love these colors together. They're so much fun, and I don't think the camera does them justice. So that is a finish, which gives me, I'm going to soak it and block it this evening, and then hopefully towards the end of the week, mail it off to my sister, whose birthday is the end of the month. So that was a great finish. So those are my 3 finished objects for this week. Still on the needles are the socks, and I talked to you about the socks last week and my frustration with them, and I'm happy to say that things are going better. So this is my Pebbles and Pathway sock. It is a pattern by Marceline Smith, who is Hey Brownberry, and I am knitting it in some unidentified spring colored sock yarn that I picked up at a local store to me. And then the brown is a mini, and I actually even have the tag for this. The brown is a mini from Quixotic Fibers. And I don't know if she is using this base again. I actually bought this from her years ago, and now she has a shop, and I know she's doing some dyeing again. This happens to be an exotic fingering mini. It went with a skein of sock yarn, but I already used the skein of sock yarn, and I just had the mini left. And it is 75% superwash merino, 15% cashmere, and 10% silk. I talked last week. You can check out last week's podcast if you really want to know how I've been struggling a little bit with this sock. I will tell you that after I posted last week about how the heel was too big and I wanted to rip it, a kind viewer and friend let me know that what I was knitting from the toe up was basically a Flegel heel, and that they were designed to be much more roomy than a regular heel for people who had larger ankles or insteps. So that made sense why it was too big on me, and I decided to just go back to what I know so that I would have a successful sock experience. And what I did is I did a contrast heels, contrast heel cuff, and I'll do a contrast toe. I am switching this pattern from the bottom to be from toe up to top down, and I'm actually showing you the side that I screwed up on. So we'll go the other way. I'm have a couple missed cables. Anyway, this is my sock thus far. I knit on it a chunk of the weekend, and on Sunday turned the heel and knit some of it on the way home. I hope to finish this one this week and get started on the next one. This is what's currently on my needles. So again, Pebbles and Pathway sock by Hey Brownberry. Third try is the charm, not a reflection of the pattern, a reflection of me adapting a pattern for my size foot and my style knitting. So I am excited to have these done. They're nice and springy, and the spring equinox is tomorrow, so I'm excited to have these done. So, although still only on the first sock. So that brings me to what's next on my needles, and it's a lot. not all of which I will be able to show you. So the first thing that is going to be on my needles is a review, and I brought the yarn to show you today. I actually have 2 skeins, and I wound up the first one last night to start on a new project tonight. This is beautiful yarn from Shepherd's Lamb, and Shepherd's Lamb is a ranch out of New Mexico. And they have a flock of sheep, and they produce yarn both for knitting and for weaving. They produce churro yarn for weaving, and then this is 100%, this says 100% fine wool. I believe this is Rambouillet, but it does not say. I guess this is a blend of wool, but they do, I know they raise Rambouillet sheep. This is a 2-ply DK weight, and they also dye using natural dyes. So this is cochineal, which is a reddish pinkish created from shells of insects. And this is a 2-ounce skein, approximately 180 yards. So I have 2 skeins, suggested gauge 6 stitches to the inch on a US size 6. That does not make any sense to me because I don't think I would get 6 stitches on a size 6. I am turning these into some cabled mitts, and I don't actually even know if I'm going to need to break into the second skein. If I don't, then I will give it away. If I do, then I'll just tell you all about it. So I have 2 skeins, and I am selected a cabled mitt pattern, and like I said, I wound those last night, and I'm going to start on that today, but that is next up on the review docket. As I said, I'm going to pull out my boxy. So that is one of those projects that has been languishing since I cast it on in January. I believe I just transitioned from the first skein to the second skein of 4 that I have, so that will definitely qualify as not halfway done in terms of whips, and I'm knitting that in a beautiful mulberry colorway. I will pull that out and bring it back next week so I can show you, and I hope to get some work done on that over the next few months and finish it for the spring craft along. The other 2 things that I have coming up in my knitting life, one which I can show you and one that I cannot, are 2 sweaters. I am going to be sample knitting for 2 different yarn companies, and I am knitting garments for them. So that is going to keep me very busy, particularly in the next month. The one that I can show you is I will be knitting a comfort fade cardigan in Zen Yarn Garden yarns. I do not have those yarns yet. They are on the way to me right now, or might be waiting at my mailbox today. And once I get those and get started, I have a sample to knit, and it's going to take me a bit because I am knitting the extra large size for their sample. So that one I will be able to show you. Unfortunately, the other I won't, but eventually I'll be able to talk about it once it is released. So that is what I'm going to be working on in the next several weeks. I expect you'll see more small instant gratification projects, hats, dishcloths, maybe some socks. And then the next big project that I want to cast on for me is I still want to do Andrea Mowry's night shift shawl. So that is the next on my needles when I'm casting on purely for me and for fun, but that may need to wait until later in April after I knock out some of these sweater projects. So that is what's going on in the knitting world. I'm going to take a quick sip of tea, and then we'll cover the last little bit of spinning, and then I will let you go. I should also say I'm probably talking really fast. My friend Anna tells me that I talk way too fast. She and I have this thing where we listen to podcasts sped up, because a lot of times as people are thinking through what they want to say, there are a lot of pauses in online content, particularly audio podcasts, but also video podcasts. And so she and I often will speed up the podcast a little bit, like to 1 1/4 times, which removes some of the dead space in between the segments and pauses where people are thinking about what they'd like to say. But of course, I never think about what I'd like to say. No, I'm kidding. I tend to speak quickly, and so she always teases me that she has to turn it back down to regular speed. So I do apologize if I have been speaking too quickly. Please feel free to let me know in the comments, and I will try and keep it in mind in the future. So, spinning. I still have that gray roving on the mini spinner. I have started the final bump, which means I'm probably somewhere between 4 and 5 ounces in, and I want to finish that up this week and ply it up. It is looking beautiful. I have not brought the bobbin to show you because I think I'm going to get it all on one bobbin, and then I'm going to ply it all on one bobbin, but I want it done and out for March. It's already been like 3 weeks that I've been working on it, and I would like to move on. So I don't really expect I'll get a lot of spinning done on anything else other than that this week. However, I brought my next spin to show you. This will be a spin for the shop, and it's a braid that I've had a while and is lovely. It is by Corgi Hill Farm, which is a dyer. She is on Etsy, and this may be an old skein because it is just a kind of random label, or it may have been bought at a show or something. It says Corgi Hill Farm Merino Silk 80/20 Blend Hurricane 2 4-point. It's either 2 or 7 ounces, so this is the tag, but you can find Corgi Hill Farm on Etsy. She does a variety of interesting blends of yarns or interesting dyes, and one of the things that she does very well is she does gradient dyes. And so this is called Hurricane. It is a bright blue at the center and then surrounded by a darker blue. It kind of goes from a turquoise to a royal to kind of an indigo and navy. And I think what I'm going to do is tear this in half vertically and then spin it 2-ply so that I can maintain the color progression and basically make it a gradient, which would make an amazing shawl or some kind of garment. It's a little more than 4 ounces, so my guess is probably 300 to 400 yards. Probably 400-ish. I'm going to try and spin it thin, and that will go up in the shop. So getting rid of the winter blues and moving on to spring colors. I guess this is more of a blues, but I will finish this one and then I will move on to some brighter, springier colors and possibly some of the spins that I'm going to do for prizes. So that is what is going to be on the wheel this week. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I know not all of the content was knitting and spinning related, but I hope you enjoyed it. I will come back to you again this weekend, so it will be a bit of a short week. I'm not sure how much else I'll get to finish, but hopefully I'll have a few other interesting things to show you. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week, and I will say until I see you again, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.